From when I was about 5 years old, I used to go to the Saturday matinees, which were the cinema in the morning on a Saturday. All the mums used to take their kids down there, dump them in the cinema from 9 o'clock till about 12:30. And the kids used to watch all these films, like cowboy films and things like that, and series. And what the big idols in those days were the cowboys. So we had Roy Rogers and Gene Autry, and they played guitar, and of course they were playing country music. We didn't realise it was country music. It was just some cowboy playing a guitar and singing for the cattle, you know. But ever since I first saw Roy Rogers with a guitar, I wanted a guitar. I knew it was unlikely I'd get a big horse or a pair of guns or something, you know. So, but I thought a guitar might be possible. And it kept on and on and on about it until when I was 12. By then I'd started listening to a lot of music. My mum and dad bought me my first guitar. And I just thought I'd died and gone to heaven. And the first song I ever learnt to play was A Four-Legged Friend, which was a Roy Rogers hit. And then I started listening to all the imports that were coming in from America. And I was listening to blues and jazz. And then I started hearing about people, this Elvis Presley, and who I thought was a country singer. And of course he was. But then suddenly they changed the title of his music to rock and roll. And we were hearing people like Little Richard, who I just thought was a kind of a black bluesy jazz singer who was a bit raucous, you know, but then he became a rock and roll person. And then suddenly we realised this new thing had come in. So I got really into that, and I started picking up Elvis 78s, and I went to see Rock Around the Clock and all those kind of very early films. And I started to try and learn a few chords on the guitar, and then Buddy Holly, I heard for the first time, blew me away, because I could actually play some of the songs, because they were more or less 3 chords. And I remember I learnt Peggy Sue, and I suddenly realised there was another chord in it that I hadn't learned, but it was only up from an E, so I kind of learnt this next chord up, so I meant I could play Peggy Sue. And then in 1958 I noticed that Buddy Holly was coming to do some gigs in the UK, and the nearest place he was going was Doncaster. So I got my little guitar on my shoulder, went on the bus from Mansfield to Doncaster. It was an hour's journey. I was about 14, 15, and went to the cinema. And I just came round the corner thinking, well, it's like going to the pictures. You just get in a queue and walk in. But of course, when I got there was 700-800 people in the street outside waiting to go in, who'd already got their tickets. And I'm standing there with this guitar, and I thought, oh no, I'm never going to get in. And someone spotted me in the crowd holding a guitar. And for some reason, he just said, oh, stand back. And they opened up and let me through. So I walked right the way through the crowd, right up the steps to these glazed doors. And I stood there, and they're all watching me. And I'm thinking, oh, what do I do now? One of the usherettes saw me and said, oh, sorry, just a minute. Pushed the door, opened the doors, let me in. And the manager came over and he said, can I help you? Bearing in mind, not many people had guitars in those days, especially young kids. And it was kind of starting, you know, the skiffle thing had taken off, and people were beginning to get. So if you had a guitar, you could have been in a band or something, yeah. So it made you a bit different. Anyway, the short story is I said to him, well, I just thought I'd nip backstage and say hello to Buddy and the Crickets. And he said, oh, right, okay, follow me. And he took me back, and we got in. And with it being a cinema, there's no proper dressing rooms. It's like under the stage, there's this like long corridor with a couple of very narrow rooms off. And he went up to this door, knocked on the door opened. As he opened it, I saw Buddy Holly sitting on the table, on the ledge. And he said, oh, there's a young man here, he's a guitarist, he wondered if he could say hello. And Buddy said, oh yeah, come on in. So I went in, and the Crickets were there, and Jerry and them and that. And I said, he said, hi, how you doing? You know, I said, you got your guitar with you, you know, as if to say, well, that's okay, you know, because I didn't realise. If I'd have thought twice about it, I'd have thought, oh, I look stupid, I won't take it. Yeah. But fortunately I did. And he said, how long you been playing? And I said, oh, about 18 months. And I said, I know all the chords, all 3 of them. And he said, well, you know most of my songs then, which I didn't realise how funny it was at the time. And he said, I said, yes, I know Peggy Sue. He said, well, get your guitar out, let's have a listen. So I got my guitar out, and I just started to play. And he was sat on the ledge with his Strat on, obviously tuning up or just putting new strings on or something. I started to play, and he started strumming along, and we started singing, and one of the guys who was sitting at the desk started to go on the side, and I'm singing, if you knew, Peggy Sue, and they all joined in, and I thought, I didn't think at the time, but at the end, as I finished, I thought, I can't believe I just sung Peggy Sue with Buddy Holly and the Crickets. And then the tour manager said, I'm afraid we'll have to go because, you know, we've got to get ready for the show. And he said, I'll show you to your seat. And he said, do you want an autograph? So I said, oh yeah. No one had any paper or a pen or anything. All the handout photos were still on the bus. So in desperation, I said, I've got a pencil in my string box in the guitar case. I said, there might be some paper in there. So I opened it up, no paper. So all I could think of saying was, would you sign the guitar? Because that's all I had. And they went, yeah, okay. So in 1958, backstage at the cinema, Buddy Holly signed my little children's guitar there, and the two Crickets signed it there. And I just went, and then I said, oh, it's okay, I haven't got a seat yet. And the tour manager said, it's out, we're sold out. So Buddy said, oh, can you kind of help out? He said, okay, come with me. He took me, gave me the house seat, one of the house seats, front row of the balcony, and I'm sat there all through the show like this, holding my guitar, watching the show. When it finished, I'd kind of drifted back to the bus stop, got on the bus, and on the way, I thought, you know, I was a big B.B. King fan, and I knew he'd called his guitar Lucille, after some woman he knew, some girl he knew. So I thought, Peggy Sue. It's a girl's name, I'll call it Peggy Sue. And from then on, I just went through the next few years, wherever. 1960, I went to see Eddie Cochran and Gene Vincent in Manchester. My dad drove me, and they signed it.